Hi everyone, how's it going? It's Natalia Corner, psychic medium and energy healer here, and I'd like to talk about the energies for April as well as the transition of the energies from March through to April and how you can feel that yourself. So just take a moment now and let's take some deep breaths in and out and just get still. So I'm just going to provide a space for you to feel a more gentle energy and just feel that stillness and lifting up our vibrations. Okay. And if you're not able to feel that right now, or just settle down and tune in, no worries, just come back to the video later when you're a bit more rested. It's interesting that we have a full moon from March on the 21st, which was in Libra, and then as we move into April, there's another full moon in Libra. The one in March on the 21st was a super full moon, and it happened to be on the date of the equinox as well, which was a lot of powerful energy happening. You might not have felt it on the day, or around that time you might have felt actually quite tired or other things, because it is quite intense being a super moon as well. And also it was Mercury retrograde, and so that sort of made everything quite twisted. So outside of that, we have this other full moon in Libra happening on April the 19th. And so with this extra Libra energy, I've been feeling that if you have a Libra in your life, then that person will be standing out to you somehow, or perhaps you need to work on your relationship with that person, I've found. So address their needs and also your interpersonal connection and relationship. Now this Mercury retrograde, which we're now phasing out of, and will still be in the post-shadow phase for a couple of weeks up through to about mid-April, April 16th-ish. So that just means that the crux of it has happened and it's just phasing out, and you can still feel a bit of the tail end of it, right? Because just like the moon has its cycles from full and it goes around back to new again, so waxing as it becomes fuller and fuller and fuller and more intense, and then waning as it eases off. Okay, so it was in Pisces, which gave it this extra interesting feel. Pisces is quite intuitive and fantastical and inspirational and emotional. So I feel that they're at that period of that intense Mercury retrograde and all that other energy happening in March. There was not only heightened intuition and very vivid, busy dreamscape, which is also happening at this point, but also it was just very detailed in terms of bringing up some internal despair or internal things that you need to work on and process and integrate, which can include your inner child healing and wounds, mother wounds, parental wounds, or even with your own children, familial wounds, ancestry lines, generational, or other things, other people from your past in this lifetime. Not to disclude past lifetimes either, and just this general sense of inflamed miscommunication, which at some points got really chronic. I definitely experienced that, and sort of technical issues, that kind of thing, which Mercury retrograde is well known for. There was also some really serious Ascension type symptom energy, so that's when we start to really get affected by energy shifts, and even solar flares were quite intense, so headaches, getting drained, feeling exhausted, tired, emotional, changes in your sleep habits, or just restless nights of sleep, insomnia, waking up not feeling rested, insane appetite, or just changes in appetite somehow. There have been intense energy blasts, and that still will be happening. But with that, when that light comes through and pushes into us, pushes in, and like for this, it didn't feel like energy waves, which we can sometimes feel. It felt more like a blast, like whoosh. So with that, negative energy can play up, the dark, whatever you want to call it. So that's one of the reasons why I believe, with the equinox being such a powerful pivotal point in March, that leading up to it there were a host of negative events, and even just generally around this month and in recent periods, the Christchurch shooting, other terror events, as well as some suicides, which is really interesting in the I'm talking about public figures from previous negative events. Now, I've forgotten right this second, but there was a couple of suicides from a Sandy Hook parent, as well as from, I think it was the Parkland shooting or something like that, a child or that survived or something like that. I've forgotten right this second, so sorry, but I have heard about these a lot. And it's just interesting that all this has been happening during this period. And it's definitely, you know, if you do have the time, do look into these matters and just keep an open mind, because often there are other things going on which are masked to us through mainstream media and so on. But the way it felt to me is that the darkness deliberately, or certain people deliberately choose negative, so choose certain dates for negative events or certain energy periods. And it's to contrast that massive push of light coming in. So there's a push me, pull me effect. So while that light is streaming in with a big giant force, the darkness is like, woo, okay, and pushing it back. And we're in the middle, so us little mere mortals going on about our everyday life are getting like hit with all of this, okay? So one minute the light comes in, the next boom, you hear something on the news or whatever's going on in your own life, in the Mercury retrograde, kind of playing things up and so on. So there has been a bit of a push me, pull me in effect, and a bit of confusion amongst the masses, and that fear energy rising up, okay? It also feels like there's been a big contrast. It also feels like there's been a play on opposites, and that is typical of negative energy to enhance that sense that we are different, separate, apart, okay? Muslims, white supremacists is an example that came up with the Christchurch shooting, and that sense of division. Should we have guns? Shouldn't we have guns? And so on. And you'll know that from other things that have been happening in the world, and perhaps even in your own personal environment. So it's interesting to see, and perhaps you can really take note of this in the future. See how the darkness intervenes when light is coming. See how there might be a pushback or a turnaround or a flipping over. So back to this period, it really is a period of self-reflection, I was feeling, and just to see what comes up for you. Pay attention to your subconscious mind, because it's been working overtime since March, okay? So what does that mean? The subconscious mind is where all this kind of information is stored, both your own personal as well as collectively. And then you're receiving signs and signals and tidbits and codes. So an example of that is not just through your dreams, but also in your waking life, seeing signs, synchronicities, and intuitions that you receive, but also numbers that you see. So keep an eye on that. I and my husband also have been seeing the numbers 911 a lot, and also 1111. Or variations of that. I often see 911 backwards these days, which is really interesting, and I'll be making some videos on those numbers soon, so keep an eye out for that. But these numbers really come for a reason. They're here to guide us, inspire us, and shower us with light and guidance, even if we're not to understand them at the time, okay? It is like just knowing, okay, we're going to be on track, and I feel that there is a constant feels like a readjusting of our reality. We enter these plateau periods, so we go a little bit up, we flatline, we go down, flatline, up, and so on. So there's a lot of readjusting, and when you're experiencing the higher energy, it's like you're in a higher reality. So something that I'd like you to ponder in the next month or so is really take a notice of the reality around you, your reality, see how it shifts as you shift. Or when you're having a good day, take a feel and a look at what that reality looks like and then compare it to a bad day. And just that alone can help you in the awakening process so that you can realize and acknowledge and see and be aware of what energy is really like and how our realities are constantly shifting and changing, and just to have more awareness of that. And as you do that, you'll be able to access a higher consciousness more and understand in generally what that means. So if you do experience that and you get little epiphanies and examples of that, please do share it with me in our community. So you might have been in this period having some conflicts between your own true feelings and integrity being pushed back or being disregarded, or in second, third or fourth or fifth place from another person in your life or other people in your life. You might have felt conflicted between doing and being for yourself and doing and being for others. So be aware in general of what you want to do, how you want to be, versus what other people around you want of you or want you to be doing and being, and how they can really interfere with that, and how they can change your day or your feelings or your vibrationary level in a moment. So have a sense of more balance, because Libra is about balance, and Libra is in our life quite drastically between March and April. Balance yourself in terms of how much you are doing for yourself versus others, or look at where your scales are out of balance in your life in general or in your work sphere. And be aware of other expectations that are placed on you versus what you want, because sometimes when we're pulled down by other people's behavior, actions, expectations, then we are more and more far removed from our true internal and eternal selves, and that can create a lot of friction, self-doubt, and it can open up old wounds, and then you can feel like you're never going forwards, or it's one step forward and two or three back, right? And we're a little bit sick of this this repetitive pattern continuing in our lives and the struggle. So it's time to have a look at where struggle has played in your life, and how your internal inner self has been thwarted, not heard, not understood, not seen, whether it's in terms of other people and or yourself. So have a look at how you might have been self-critical or non-self-aware for yourself or with others around you. This means that it's a period of not just integration, but also and processing of things, reflecting upon things, but also reanalyzing so that you can get a new momentum going. So let's look at the notion of momentum. Okay, momentum means things are piling up. It's like the barreling snowball, right? And as it rolls forward, it's gathering more and more snow, becoming bigger, bigger, bigger. So have a feel of how that plays up in your life, right? A great spiritual truth is that everything has two sides to it. So there's a pendulum swing. So if you ever think of that ball rolling up and momentum gaining and gaining and gaining, and this can be something positive in your life or something negative, right? We all know what it feels like when that negative ball is getting bigger and bigger. Think of that as the most extreme end of the spectrum. Then you have the pendulum swing of the complete opposite. Opposite is where things totally have eased off, okay? And there's a more sense of ease, freedom. So as that ball gets bigger, there's a sense of things piling up. Oh, it just feels like, in the negative way, it feels like there's this build up, piling up, build up. And this energy, this force just rises and rises. So it's kind of like when you have your emotional feelings or tension or anger, and it's just about to come up to the surface and then explode like a volcano. When that happens, there's going to be a turning point, a shift, and then everything changes. As it rises up, all your stuff that was buried or whatever the situation is, you gather the fresh air, so your head's out of the water, there's an opening, the light comes in, it shines on it. If you are a spiritual walker and you're doing your work, you're going to have an epiphany, a realization, and then there's a clear space, an opening. That's what this period is inviting you to do. What you have to be aware of is resistance, because when there's momentum, there's resistance. So I've talked about negative example, but what about positive? What about this if, which hopefully you will experience soon, a positive version of momentum. So things are getting bigger and bigger, something really good. Let's say a project you're working on and you want to launch it, bigger and bigger and bigger. What happens? Little fears might pop up, right? As the darkness seeps in, the light is helping make it bigger. So when fears start to creep up, resistance blossoms, and resistance is the antithesis of creation. So it creates a lessening of that snowball, and that snowball will start to go the other end and get smaller and smaller and smaller as you retreat back. So what I'm trying to say here is really be aware of that sense of momentum versus resistance. How and what have you been resisting things in your life, or people, knowledge, awareness, knowings, information, intuitions? And I'm really getting a strong feeling about intuition. Have you been avoiding or resisting an intuition within you? And is that something that you are resisting, or that you feel some other force is? And if that's the case, what are you doing in that process? What are you learning? How are you growing? When there's resistance, it feels like you are pushing against the currents, swimming against the stream, and there's an internal and external fight. At worst, you could say that the negative big momentum or the negative resistance is like a giant wave, a big tsunami coming towards you, about to wreck everything in your path, right? And that will leave you where? Back in a plateau, back to square one. So if you picture a positive snowball, something positive you want to create, getting bigger and bigger, make sure, perhaps you could do this visually, take off the lid and allow that light to come streaming in so that you can gain more positive momentum forward. Be aware of any fears that might pop up, especially around the full moon period or any other energy. Stay aware of your fears and what you might be resisting, and you might find that you have some really deep open intuitions. We can fall into habits of holding on to things, and when we hold on, it's like, oh, we're just clutching, right? Clutching on to old dead straws. You know, we have to learn to let go and surrender to the process. And as soon as that happens, things start to change, a shift starts to happen, and new opportunities come up. It is like it opens up a space, and at the very least, a new clarity and a freshness will emerge. And that's what you are to aim for this month. So the opportune time for new beginnings and really turning things over and being inspired is in early April. On April 5th, we have a new moon in Aries. And Aries is that fire sign, that passion, and it's really going to be helping you build up that new momentum, or something new, or something that you're really wanting to birth or work on more, or allow to go in a positive direction. And if you have some project or something you want to create or do, that is a perfect time to get that blooming, or at least to get some ideas down. It's a time for action, rebirth, new beginnings, and if you're in Aries like myself, this is our birthday month there in April mostly, you know, you're really going to feel this energy extra. March, being numerologically a 6th month, was very tied up in also, when I think about it numerologically, service to others, doing for others, and that really matches a lot with what I was saying just before, so that's funny, isn't it? And it's also a number about other people and relationships and your family and so on. So have a look what popped up in those spheres in your life. As we now transition through this period into April, I'm getting a really strong sense of April as being a heightened spiritual month. There will be, and there are, spiritual activations happening, the angels are saying. So be mindful and open to those moments of activation, and think of activations as an opening, as seeds sprouting, and 11:11 7 is an example of that kind of feeling, right? Or that higher frequency coming in. So it's a powerful month for self-reflection also, spiritual endeavors, your spiritual development, but also your inner spiritual growth. And if you're able to pour out that inner world that you have to the outside world, you'll be away winning. That's a little secret there that they're kind of saying. So allow your inner to come out to the outer. And as you see that, it's like energy. When it's open and expanse, it's going outwards, and then it can affect other people. So do watch out for positive ripple effects, synchronicities and signs and heightened intuition, all those kinds of things. I also feel that there'll be starting to emerge a sense of self-power and empowerment being big themes for April, also going into May, also feeling it for June, possibly July and August. Okay, so I just decided to pull some oracle cards to see what further information and guidance the angels want to share with us. And this is the first card that came through, okay? And my immediate reaction to this, so I haven't examined it deeply. Often when I do oracle cards, as some of my clients know, when I pull some out in a reading, which is not always, I just go with this immediate blast of information that comes, and then I examine it a bit more. So my immediate blast that I received, and by the way, blast is a key word, so I've been receiving it also. I did some private angelic channeling just a couple of days ago, and that word was coming through, energy blast, okay? So as I was talking about before, as these happen and as you go into, remember I was talking before about being aware. So that means observing. See how this person is cloaked and they're just really within themselves. So that spiritual energy and internalization, but also protection. So protection will be important this month. And as I said that, I was focused around the border of the black, and it reminded me of a dark stone like black tourmaline. And then one of the other cards that popped through was this, which is about protection. So dark stones such as black tourmaline, obsidian, as it says here. Okay, so I'm really drawn to the blackness. That meaning, okay, into the darkness in a positive way, as in through shadow work on yourself. Use dark crystals such as the ones I've mentioned for protection, or others. I'm also getting tiger's eye as being a really key stone for this period, and selenite, smoky quartz also. But whatever ones, also getting rose quartz, okay, which is different again. So whatever comes up for you, any stone that you're drawn to, you can work with or just have around you, on you. So with this card also is the feeling of interpersonal relationships. See how there's all the other people around it. Watch your interactions and how other people are around you, and observe when things are going on. Stand out of things. So observe rather than absorb. That's one of my key teachings for empaths, okay? Now, see how there's a heart activation there. There's this light beaming out from the heart. And that's and also amongst these two, so all interplays. So try using your heart space, your love, your light amongst your relationships with other people, and to lift up vibrations and see how that changes relationships between you and others or other people around you. Also using light and love vibrations in your home. Observe things going on around you. There's an interesting play between cosmic forces and interesting cosmic happenings. And the light streaming in, as you can see, there's the rainbow light, which is all the colors of the spectrum. And it's shining down on the crown chakra, and this is where we connect with the divine and where we are open. I'm hearing now for downloads to be received, okay? When we talk about spiritual downloads, we're talking about information, intuition coming through to us from the higher realms, from our angels, from our guides, from our higher self, and from the higher energy that is there for us to be streamed in. Does kind of feel like an energy blast again, doesn't it? But see how she looks almost like an astronaut, but with that, she's really coveted, she's really cloaked, and again, it's protecting in a way of like a warm protection. So if I thought now about sort of putting a cloak around me or a shawl, there's that feeling. It's also reminding me about of the Muslim covers that the women wear as well. So there's a sign of spiritual respect, spiritual inwardsness, and coveting, covering oneself, internalizing into that dark, deep, positive dark, deep space for self-growth, and also protection and observation. Okay, now the 2 cards that popped up, I do like to use these a lot when I do these monthly readings, which is the Crystal Ally cards, and I really love to use them for this higher energy. I don't use them often otherwise, but they really speak energetically to me in a frequency way, I guess. So one of the things I feel to pay attention to is you might be receiving, apart from downloads and activations and inspiration and information, higher frequency sounds, tonal notes. You might be getting the ringing in the ears, crown activations, all that kind of thing, third eye. And it's interesting that these 2 cards appeared in this order. Now one was upside down, so when that happens for me, I feel, what I feel is watch out that this can be you might be in resistance to what it's saying, which is action, right? And you might be not taking action, or it just might be pay attention to that. I was already speaking about that Aries energy of action, okay? So that really makes sense, and guess what comes with it? Fire. And both cards are fire cards, as you can see from the borders, right? And the imagery and the colors. And this particular deck of cards has all the different elements, and they're all different borders and so on, and themed groups. So this is saying to me that fiery Aries energy is really strong, and fire is also about rebirth, change, transformation, transmutation, passion, creativity, dynamism, burning away all your old sorrows from the past, everything not working, and rise again like the phoenix rising. With this card, there is a sense of leaping from one side to another, and I'm really drawn here, so there's the 2 sides of a cliff, and he's really taking a plunge, and that's a leap of faith, isn't it? As he takes that leap of faith, we have this area here which could represent, let's say, the lower chakras, and red is the root chakra, and then this yellow, okay? So the part where he's in the light is the yellow, taking that leap. He's in his faith, in the light, in that divine inspiration mode of taking action. The light's shining on him as he's doing so, which means go for it. You're getting the positive sign to go ahead and take that leap, take that risk, take that plunge, right? And also the yellow is about the solar plexus, so watch that, because that also connects with what I talked about, self-power. Okay, also I'm really drawn to this area here because even though it is like a little creek or river between the 2 cliffs, it looks like a picture of a woman's face. So just have a look at that. Okay, so we've got the dark hair, the eyes. So there's the reflections in the water, self-reflection, beauty, grace, womanhood, divine feminine, but also that fire burning. So really waking up and rising, looking within at who you are and being more who you are in integrity, melting away the old versions of you which are no longer working or in harmony, and birthing or rebirthing the new, more empowered, stronger, interesting, creative you, just waiting from behind the curtains to reveal itself to you. Okay, so I think that's it for this month. So stay in touch, write a message on this video or on my Facebook page. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and my newsletter. All the links are below. All right, thank you. Have a positive, great month. Lots of love and see you soon.